cameras and also have recorded your attendance in the future. Before we start, so I will start with Surah Al-Fatiha. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Everyone can hear me okay? Or is there too much noise in my voice?
Okay, Doctor.
There's some announcement I would like to highlight. If you guys have a look at your link summary, general link summary, as mentioned, everything I've put in the WhatsApp group. There's a description in the group there. If you just clicked on it, it will take you to the link summary for your class. So in that link summary, previously I've posted there the item number 4 is the video lecture, but I agree with Sir Azri the way he put the video lecture according to the topics. So yeah, I've also remedied that accordingly. So I forgot to put a date. Let me put it there. Just give me a second. You guys can also look on the link summary real time. I'm editing it right now. So all the video I've made, I've posted up in YouTube so that you don't have to download all the videos and penuhkan korang punya drive. Therefore, hopefully korang, I'm not asking for subscriber, I'm not monetizing my account or anything. This is just for ODL punya initiative lah basically. Everything is being stored in YouTube so that you guys don't have to download anything and you can just watch it online. So I think that's the easier way. And of course, if there is an audit, it's much easier for me to show them the video recording. Okay. So everyone, turn on your camera. Make sure I just want to make sure that nobody. I'm not talking alone. Okay, then let me have a look at your attendance. Okay, just 3 more people to fill up the attendance, but so far everyone has filled up. So thank you. And yeah, camera is on. Okay, so today I have to sync with the other class lecture because tak boleh kecilkan. Let me adjust the OBS studio setting. Give me a second. Let me put it up there. Guess this is the best I could have. It's okay, I guess. Still okay. But why does it show window projector? Oh, sorry. Give me a second here. Supposedly don't have the Windows projector. Yes. Okay, no problem there. Sorry, yeah, I'm still a noob in doing this OBS thing, but hopefully you guys can see it okay. Right, let's start. Okay, assalamualaikum, and I hope everyone had a great weekend, just last weekend. So we'll start the first week of our class EPO626. with TCO3. We continue with TCO3, basically on energy policies and legislations. Again, this first chapter is going to be very dry. It's going to be tons of me talking and maybe a few questions here and there to make sure everyone are focus on the class. But it's a very dry subject. There's tons of laws and I would say relationship of the laws that you need to understand so that you guys won't have any problem with your mini project later on. So this is the topic. Last chapters we've discussed on calculating your electricity bill to help you in your proposal later on. Hopefully, I've made that clear. Again, if you have any question, you can just ask me. Do feel free to interrupt. But I've also posted the last video lecture for you to refer to in the link summary. Okay, so what is the objective of this topic? Basically, to deliver understanding of policies and legislation regarding energy management. So what is the policies and rules and regulation the government has, what you call that, prepared for Malaysia so that we can comply or for us to adhere or maybe give justification to our prospective client in the future that we can utilize lah for our apa nama, proposal. And then to provide sufficient information on policies that supports energy management practices. Okay, so there are tons of policy in Malaysia, not including the one that specifically being made for energy management, but also the operation and the laws of engineering lah, basically that you can use to strengthen your proposal in your mini project later on. So this topic is where you learn on the relationship between those policies and the objective you're trying to achieve at the end of your semester later on. So first we look into the introduction, then we look into energy policies available in Malaysia, and then the legislations that we are going to use to strengthen our proposal in regards to energy management. So first introduction. Again, we'll have to look to our ex-Prime Minister, Datuk Seri Najib Tun Razak. Whether you like him or not, it's up to you. But the energy management program started with him based on his speech in United Nations that addresses our commitment to achieve energy management by reducing 40% of emission intensity based on GDP by the year 2020 compared to 2005 levels. So he gives this speech or commitment in United Nations Climate Change Conference in Copenhagen back in 2009. As you've known, he's not our Prime Minister as of 2018. And after the government change, there's no specific, what you call that, direction towards Malaysia commitment in achieving this statement. As yet, even nowadays pun dah tukar PH pada PN pun, and PN dah kepada new government pun, there's nobody saying anything regarding Malaysian commitment in regards to energy efficiency ni lah yang dah distatekan, which is reduction of 40%. So I can't give you any update. I can't give you any figures, but this is back then. Supposedly, since all the energy policies and all the energy legislation has been approved by the government back then, supposedly it still is being applicable lah. So that means if any of the policies that kita akan discuss today has been breached, government has the necessities or tools to pursue or terpursue lah basically the energy management program ni. So basically, we can all trace back the Malaysian energy commitment management commitment by Datuk Sri Najib Razak lah. And this reduction of 40% in carbon emission Malaysia was mentioning that will be achieved is via energy efficiency program, energy conservation program, as well as incorporation of renewable energy. So as we have learned, there's a difference between energy efficiency and energy conservation. Energy efficiency means you does not sacrifice your comfort level, whereby energy conservation there's some cutbacks lah yang we have to observe and incorporate in our daily life. Whereby renewable energy, it's something that you have to spend some capital in, meaning you have to spend some money to install the renewable energy program, renewable energy equipment, so that you're able to claim the carbon emission reduction of 40%, as per stated, as per commitment back then. So this is some more elaboration on the 40% current national carbon emission steps that the government has took, which is first in 2008, basically to implement efficient management of electrical energy regulation. This is the first regulation or policies that the government has introduced back in 2008, basically to encourage efficient management of energy. And then another step is energy conservation as complementary process for energy management. So they introduce not only efficient energy management policies, but also energy conservation processes. This is not a rule, but it's more like a reminder lah, so that everyone know that okay, instead rather than spending thousands of money every month to pay the bills, what you can do is you can uh, adhere towards the policy of electrical energy regulation 2008, and also to complement that, implement energy conservation also in that process. And then the next step, government introduced renewable energy program to reduce dependency of fossil fuel. Even though Petronas is also one of the main what would you say income of the government punya pocket, we all know that fossil fuel will not be great for the future if you're depending on your income based on oil, on fossil fuel, will be like Venezuela. For those who knows or keep up to date with the current world affair, you guys know that for Venezuela, even nowadays pun, but the news was big in 2018, if I'm not mistaken, to buy a single pear of fruit, let's say a banana, for example, you have to go to the first. There's no stock. Even if there is stock, the price of that pear would be in millions of Venezuelan. What is the currency? I forgot. Uh, uh, Something B. I forgot what's the name. Not Baht. Baht is Thailand. Venezuelan Bolivian or something like that. The currency name for us it's MYR or Ringgit Malaysia. For Venezuela is a different. I forgot what's the name is, but the reason why the inflation is so big there, the situation is so big there, is because their dependency on fossil fuel. If you don't know, Venezuela is the second largest country or oil producing country in the world, next to Arab Saudi, next to United Arab Arab Saudi lah basically. So Venezuela is the biggest oil producer, but they are very poor compared to Arab Saudi because of mismanagement. They did say dalam hidup ni ada dua benda yang akan memusnahkan negara. First, corruption. Second, mismanagement. And Venezuela is on the second path, which is mismanagement. Dia punya pemerintahan tu tak pandai. Terlalu nak popular. Dia bagi subsidi yang banyak sangat dekat rakyat dia. End up, ni saya based on documentary yang saya follow. Dia tipu saya tipu awak lah. Of course saya bukannya political or apa nama science politik punya graduate. So if diorang tipu saya tipu awak lah. So dia cakap the reason why Venezuela is like today is because back then sebab nak stay in power, of course dictatorship and whatnot and so forth tu biarlah tapi sebab nak to stay in power dia banyak bagi gula-gula kat rakyat dia. In that sense minyak murah, apa nama subsidi apa api air semua tu lah, macam-macam lah, rumah sewa apa semua. Tapi what happened was rakyat dia jadi malas. So bila rakyat jadi malas, memang 80% of the income of the country of the Venezuela comes from oil punya revenue lah. And what happened in 2008 and up until 2000 something kot, yang economy tank because of 2008 economic crisis, menyebabkan harga minyak turun, gila-gila turun, and end up the amount that they produce as opposed to the cost of them producing that oil menyebabkan rugi gila-gila. And disebabkan that country Venezuela memang totally depend 80% of their income, the tax revenue comes from oil producing activities, economic activities. Habis tak ada income lagi dalam country dia, so negara dia berhutang. And bila tak percaya boleh Google hutang dia dengan IMF. If I'm not mistaken, it's one of the largest amount of hutang yang pernah kita buat. In this sense, Tun Dr. Mahathir memang pandai lah. Even though kita was in a situation, the same situation back in 97 and 98, Tun smart dia tak pinjam ke IMF. Sebab IMF ni, it's well known to have a very interest tinggi ke apa. I mean, it's not very, macam kita menjual negara lah sebenarnya. Back then orang cerita benda tu lah Saya pun muda lagi tu, tak tahu lagi. But that's what's happened to Venezuela. They depend totally on wholeheartedly dekat oil gas, fossil fuel. End up bila economic tank back in 2007 and so if I'm not mistaken even 2018 pun sama juga. Harga minyak drop habis lah. Habis negara tak ada income, terpaksa berhutang and sampai sekarang tak boleh nak bayar hutang lagi. And tank lah everything, all the import, export, all the price of the inflation kan. So sampai sekarang, even though minyak dia still banyak, dia kena sanction lah apa semula and menyebabkan habislah dia punya country. And that's why, even though Malaysian punya income does come from fossil fuel, even government pun dah sarankan Petronas start to move into renewable energies so that we can be less dependent on fossil fuel. Even in fact, Arab Saudi pun dah start program-program. Sebab tu kalau kita baca news nowadays, dah start lah ada program pelancongan with Arab Saudi. BTS, I'm not sure, I guess you guys pun adalah kot peminat-peminat K-pop tu. BTS pun dah start boleh masuk Arab Saudi, dah start boleh buat konsert apa semua. Padahal Mekah tu, Arab Saudi tu, bayangkan sebelah Mekah, sebelah konsert K-pop. I'm not sure how that will go in the books of Islamic punya teachings, tapi yalah, sebab nak kurangkan dependency on fossil fuel. Okay, saya nak meraban, but that is the reason why kita kena kurangkan dependency on fossil fuel. Even Petronas pun dah start dah tanam solar panel. So after this, if you guys have, let's say, nak pursue energy management program, there is orang kata job scope yang available untuk korang. Most probably Petronas pun lepas ni akan hire yang energy management ni. So I'm not saying but that is my prediction lah in the future. And then panjang saya cerita padahal dia baru introduction. Okay, then there's a scheme called Feedin Tariff. Feedin Tariff, basically you as a homeowner, you agree with ESCO, any kind of energy supplying company, untuk installkan solar panel kat rumah awak, for example. And cukup bulan, let's say lah korang maybe pakai, korang produce 100 kilowatt, korang maybe just pakai 60 or 40 kilowatt. Lebihan tu, the remaining balance of energy that you have collected because of solar panel, tapi tak pakai, Feedin Tariff ni punya scheme is that dia akan ambil dia akan sedut awak punya extra power being produced, dia bayar dekat awak. So basically TNB beli elektrik daripada awak, and instead of awak pakai electricity tu uh, bayar electricity tu, now awak dapat duit pula, even though awak pakai elektrik on your own juga. So dia dapat extra income. But of course feed-in tarif ni there's several ni lah, sebab you have to remember having nak pasang renewable energy ataupun nak have extra power being generated at your house yang awak tak pakai tu, it involves a lots of capital. Solar panel nak pasang mahal, maybe upwards of 100,000 maintenance and whatnot. Okay, just a reminder, for those yang moving forward, if you want to join classes, I would prefer if you log in to your UiTM email, so that saya tak perlu approve every single time korang masuk dalam Gmeet ni. So make sure everyone, sebab if you log in using UiTM Gmail, masuk je kelas tak payah, dia akan automatic masuk, tak perlu approval. Sebab korang yang pakai email login dekat browser tu, korang pakai email personal ke apa ke, sebab dia dikira as outside of UiTM. So macam tadi lah saya tengah cakap kena tekan admit. So leceh sikit So I think it's also applicable to other classes. So make sure before joining class, try to log in to your UiTM email from that browser that you're trying to use your Google Meet with. Ataupun Google Meet tu awak login pakai UiTM email. Yang lain-lain tu browser tak payah. It's up to you lah. Tapi it's much better that way. So that your lecturer don't have to admit every single time and interrupt the classes. Okay, enough about that. So Feedin Tariff, again, it's a program, it's a scheme where you install renewable energy or whatever that you've done, and you save, or you have an extra energy that the government will buy it from you. Not government lah, TNB lah basically, will buy it from you and pay you the extra energy that you produced. So not only you don't have to pay electricity bill because you implement the energy efficient management program, but you're also being paid by TNB. So feed-in tariff, if I'm not mistaken, has already stopped in 2014. I guess government realized that TNB don't have that much money, so I guess they stopped the program. But there is a program, maybe in the future, if maybe one day we become negara maju, developed country one day, and I think it's more towards the government have extra income to promote the use of renewable energy. So if in the future, if the next government or current government tiba-tiba berubah hati, nak pula reintroduce renewable energy ni, and then most probably feed-in tariff ni akan reintroducekan balik lah. Okay, but for now, since 2014, feed-in tariff program has already ended. Okay, next, Don. Okay, so we look into the history of legislation. We are looking in the slide here shows that why we need to do things efficiently. Okay, this is the first case of efficient energy management being observed, which is in Perak, Malim Nawar. I haven't been there. Perak, I've only been to Ipoh and a few places. I'm not sure. I can't recall. But this is detected in Malim Nawar, recorded in Malim Nawar, Perak, in the early 1960s. So back then, 1960s, Perak is quite famous for mining activities. So this is the case. So originally, the motor was assembled in a way that the pump, it is being assembled next to the pump in horizontal form, such that it requires the motor to overcome the power of gravity. I mean, to suck the water into the pump so that the water could be redirected to other places. The motor has to overcome not only the friction of the pump itself, but also the gravity power, because gravity is pushing the water down, whereby you want the motor to suck in the water inside the tunnel ni, hose ni, to overcome the gravity. So power motor tu nak pakai banyak lah. But if instead of that, if you just the same power, the same motor, the same pump, but you arranged it such that the motor is arranged in a vertical form, and instead of using a long hose beside the river bed, you put it on top of the river itself, and therefore you reduce the friction, the Newton laws of energy movement. So you not only save the fuel cost, because now the motor doesn't have to work that much, because it does not have to overcome the gravity forces that much, because it's already been shortened. And also when it's fall down, because if you can imagine, this is left and then this is right. So when you mount it vertically, there's one way up and then there's one way down, and when it's the what you call the belting is goes down, it carries it with itself the velocity of the gravity. So when it goes up, now it's being assisted by the force of the gravity going down, so it reduces the energy the motor needs to produce to operate the pump. Now because of this simple uh, rearrangement and reallocation, now the motor can work more hours and less fuel is being used. So as you can see, the first cases shows that you does not even have, well, okay, maybe lah you have to buy the tripod lah, but tripod I think wouldn't cost you up to 1,000, most probably just a few hundreds. But just a simple rearrangement allows you to achieve energy efficiency, and enables you to save some cost lah, and also time. Now you don't have to turn off the motor because as often, because the motor is not that warmed compared to the earlier position. So this is the first case recorded in Malaysia, which is back in 1960s. So 1938 and then suddenly 1960s, ni something else lah. Tajuk ni is now very related, but look on the knowledge that it's trying to convey, the message that it's trying to convey is that to achieve energy efficiency, you don't have to spend much actually. Just have to be smart. Work smart, not hard. So this is basically the work smart and not work hard in energy efficiency. So if you recall nowadays, orang duk cerita pasal timah, arak timah tu kan, yang nama timah duk gaduh-gaduh, yang pas kata apa nama timah pula nama Melayu kan. So actually timah tu is not timah Fatimah, but timah because of tin. Perak back then was mining timah, silver, perak, tin. Saya tin kot. So timah tu sebenarnya tin, which is being held, the mining department was actually being held by Captain Speedy, and back then the main activity was timah. So timah bukan Fatimah, yang I think that's the thing about PAS lah, dia a bit terlalu memikirkan dunia akhirat, tak fikir duniawi sangat. So telah jadi kena gelak dia dekat Facebook. Anyway, the first safety legislation was started in 1878 by Captain Speedy, because he was back then the main kepala yang handle the mining department in Malaysia. We're talking about Malaysia. So Captain Speedy ni is the one yang the first mining head, or maybe the first mining pioneer lah kat Malaysia ni. And the safety legislations is then come into force one at a time with the legislation. After that, after Captain Speedy introduced the mining department, then after that, some improvement on machinery operation, factories, and machinery legislation, electrical legislation, and then OSHA and so forth and so forth. So the first pioneer was Captain Speedy, the mining department. That's the first legislation being introduced back in 1878. And then we look into energy policies in Malaysia. So chart ni menunjukkan Petronas punya energy. Bila bercakap pasal energy kat Malaysia, typically we'll be talking about fuel, gas, oil and gas and whatnot lah. So the first was the first known in Malaysia was the Petroleum Development Act in 1974 after the construction of Petronas, so that all the oil being found in Malaysia is gazetted under Petronas. Sebab kalau orang persendirian yang korek, first tak ada duit, and then tak ada expertise, and then nanti kan habislah hutan semua kena korek padahal minyak tak ada. So that's why government introduced Petronas by then, introduced Petronas Development Act, so that any kind of oil, gas or drilling activities for the purpose of finding oil in Malaysia falls under Petronas. So orang luar, Shell ke apa, BHP ke, Schlumberger ke, Halliburton kena datang ke, kena deal dengan Petronas kalau nak korek minyak dekat Malaysia. And then after that, there's a National Petroleum Policy in 1975 to strengthen Petronas, and then National Energy Policy, and so on and so forth lah. So after, basically what you can see here, each of the akta ataupun policies yang Malaysia introduce is actually move accordingly with the price of petrol in barrel in dollars. So makin lama naik, makin banyak policy yang kita nak kena introducekan, so that duit tu kita boleh efficiently collect. Government boleh efficiently collect, bukan untuk digunakan untuk beli bag Birkin, tapi digunakan untuk rakyat lah. UiTM yang korang ni, yang belajar ni, yang satu kepala 5,000 saya cakap first week tu hari tu, itu antaranya adalah daripada duit minyak ni lah yang kita collect. Yang zaman tu dulu, dia suka korek Petronas punya poket tu, sebab daripada ni lah. Okay. And then bila minyak dah makin lama makin naik, starting 2001, they decide it's better kita introduce as renewable energy as our fifth fuel policy in 2001 to kickstart our energy management program lah. So bila harga minyak naik je, macam-macam lah policy kena introduce untuk mengelakkan kebanjiran duit keluar daripada negara. So kita nak bagi kat rakyat, itulah macam-macam policy yang awak nampak kat situ. Okay, so bila bercakap pasal energy policies, okay, in Malaysia, basically the main framework or sorry, hold on bising sekejap rumah. Oh, saya cakap seorang Sorry, when we are talking about energy policies in Malaysia, the framework typically can be found being developed by the government agencies and also private sectors by these bodies lah. So for government agencies, it falls under Kementerian Tenaga Teknologi Hijau dan Air, KETA, or Green Technology, bahasa Melayu dia, bahasa English dia Green Technology, something like Green Technology and Water, whatever tu. But KETA. And then under KETA, there's Suruhanjaya Tenaga, and under Suruhanjaya Tenaga, there's Green Tech Malaysia, EPU, C3 and EPU. I haven't had the chance to interact with them because I'm not very involved with renewable energy program pun. Tapi typically Green Tech is the one that you'll be seeing much more lah compared to the other two, because Green Tech is where you took your exam if you want to have energy management, certified energy manager certification lah. So you have to interact with Green Tech. But if you're starting with installation, if you have any issues that you want to raise, you have to contact the other two. Green Tech is more on training and certification awarding. For private sectors, you'll be dealing with these bodies. I've never had a chance to interact with them, so I can't say anything much. except for a green building index, where this is the one that who awards the building whether it is energy efficient or not. Okay, this is bodies that back then, I'm not sure nowadays whether they are still available or not, but back then these are the bodies that you will typically be interacting with if you want to pursue energy management program in your environment or in your work office. So these are the general idea of Malaysian energy policy. The supply objective, we want to achieve utilization objective, and we want to have environment objective. These are the three energy policy Malaysian has constructed to as an objective lah. The first, supply, is to make sure that the supply is adequate, secure, cost effective through developing and utilizing alternative source of energy. So if possible, we want to have less amount of dependency on fossil fuel. So we are seeking alternative source of energy lah, be it renewable energy or be it efficiently used energy lah. But typically we are talking about alternative source of energy. And then utilization objective. In Malaysia, our policy is to promote efficient utilization of energy, basically to discourage wasteful. If I'm not mistaken, back in 2015 and below, if I'm not mistaken, there's iklan. Even in YouTube pun, there's iklan. The government has engaged with YouTube to promote the efficient utilization of energy. This is not only in Malaysia. This is also applicable in all the ASEAN country and also in the world lah. So there's a iklan yang orang main game, buka kipas, buka aircon, lampu semua terang. Tapi sebab dia main game terlalu overload sangat, semua orang pun main dalam satu apartment, the whole apartment semua orang pun buat benda yang sama. End up yang dekat hospital tak cukup power, yang mak bapak dia dah nazak ke apa ke, terpaksa ditutup dia punya power supply sebab tak ada power. Even though in real time sebenarnya tak pun. Tapi ialah nak mengelakkan pembaziran lah kononnya dia punya objektif iklan tu. So dia kata kalau nak main game, pakai kipas ni sudahlah, janganlah buka kipas, buka aircon, buka lampu semua. Jangan membazir lah basically. And then the environment objective, to minimize the negative environmental impacts of the energy supply chain. Apa maksud energy supply chain? From generation to distribution to consumption. Dia nak minimize all the negative environmental impacts, because if you allow negative environment impact, satu, pembaziran lah. So instead of bagi power dekat awak maybe 100 kV saja, dia terpaksa bagi 100 kV sebab nak kereta bangkai burung tu yang dah sedut electricity banyak sangat daripada tu, sebab dia jadi daging apa, sebab dia keep on berada kat situ, tak ada siapa alihkan. So dia, untuk cater for the energy loss, TNB terpaksa increasekan. So sebab tu dia nak kasih make sure tak ada bangkai burung ke apa dekat line elektrik tu. So dia pasang lah all the all the gadgetries lah untuk make sure burung tak hinggap kat apa tu. So burung tak mati, energy pun tak terbazir untuk TNB supplykan untuk awak or something like that lah. That is the most, yang sebab saya bukan bekerja dengan TNB, I don't know typically what does it mean by negative environmental impacts per se in real life yang diorang dah ada. But typically burung mati sebab kena rejatan elektrik di tiang elektrik itu normal lah, benda berlaku lah. Okay, and then energy policies in Malaysia, this is the master plan being EE tu is energy efficiency moving forward. So in Malaysia, it's not currently developing. It has already been developed, but maybe continuously being improved. So currently developing is a bit not applicable sangat lah. Di slide dulu kan ya. So basically dalam master plan tu, we have a roadmap to promote the use of energy efficiency in not only rumah but also industrial and commercial. Industrial is kilang, commercial is kedai-kedai, and household is rumah kita lah, which comprised of identification of policy initiatives for the industrial, commercial and household sector, identification of appropriate program yang boleh kita implement in each of this category, and then development of prioritized action plan to guide implementation of various policy initiatives along with its supportive program. Panjang cakap ni. Basically, dia nak cover end-to-end lah. Not only rumah but also the industrial players, because industrial and commercial typically will contribute to the most electrical energy being used. So they nak tackle that, and then untuk tackle that dia nak kena ada program, and then dia nak kena ada action. So itulah basically dia nak cakap. And then dalam master plan tu pula, in that master plan also is the acceleration development of EE, energy efficiency. Acceleration maksudnya after dah done this, bukan maksudnya dia open ended. Ada dia punya closed loop dia tu to measure continuous program, so that from point A to point B dia kuasa 2, bukannya kali 2. Kalau kali 2 dia slow lah, ataupun tambah 2. Maksudnya progress daripada point A nak pergi point B, tambah 2 slow lah, tambah 2. Whereby kalau kuasa 2, apa saya cakap mathematics lah, basically to accelerate the development of EE. Tayar melipir. Next. And then there's one program dipanggil Small Renewable Energy Program, or SREP. I think this one has already been shut down back in 2014 because apa nama tu? I think this is not 2014. This one is a bit recent. I think because of Najib turun kot. Sebab yang tutup tu fit je. Yang Small Renewable Energy Program ni is still applicable. Even UiTM pun based on Small Renewable Energy Program ni. Because we falls under 11 to 33 kilowatt interconnection. When I'm talking about UiTM Terengganu yang pasang solar dekat awak nampak kat bangunan Interlac and a few other buildings. We falls under Small Renewable Energy Program even last year or last 2 years. So maybe check me on that lah, whether it's still applicable. But what falls under SREP is that basically trying to promote renewable energy for power generation. So solar panel kita install dekat UiTM tu is power generating. So that means kita less dependent on TNB untuk supply power. Tak silap saya, bangunan administration and bangunan Interlac is currently being powered solely by solar panel. So a few other college korang most probably still daripada TNB, tapi a few buildings lah yang memang fix kena this amount of energy. That is being fed by electrical power solar panel yang kita nampak install dekat parking Interlac tu. So basically it facilitate expeditious implementation of grid connected renewable energy. Apa maksud grid connected? Solar panel tu tak stand alone. TNB daripada luar masuk UiTM, yang solar panel pun tap line yang sama so that dia boleh complement TNB punya kekurangan. So that means now sebelum ni TNB kena buka 10 dia punya volume untuk current masuk ke electric masuk to UiTM. Now TNB can already reduce it maybe to 6. Not totally off sebab solar panel kita tak adalah besar mana. So turun a bit more to save electrical generation from them, energy supply from them to UiTM maybe to 6. And the rest instead sebelum ni 10, ada 4 lagi beza tu. That 4 is being provided by solar panel. So that's what is meant by grid connected. Maksudnya solar panel tu bukan standalone, dia memang untuk supply the whole area together with TNB. Main line TNB tu masuk UiTM tu, solar panel pun tap line yang sama untuk supply. Renewable energy and resource based small power plant. So macam power plant kita solar panel tu lah. So it has a 21-year license applicable to them. That means after 21 years, you have to renew or buy. After that, maybe solar panel rosak ke apa ke, buy another one. And maximum being generated by that small power plant is 10 megawatt. That means to make sure that you don't over macam nak menjual elektrik sangat lah pada TNB. Lebih kepada just nak extra lebih tu bagi TNB. For example like that lah. Sebab nanti kan takut penuh pula ladang-ladang kat Malaysia ni dengan solar panel, habislah tak ada tumbuhan, tak ada pokok, habislah. Tak elok juga. And then 11 to 33 kilowatt interconnection. That means it's more on small scale je lah, bukan besar-besar. Because for kilang typically, or heavy industries typically, they'll want more than 11 or 33 kilovolt lah. So 11 to 33 ni, you can imagine like even your ATM phone are still under 33 kilovolt application. So renewable electricity purchase agreement will be based on willing seller, willing buyer, meaning if TMB will come up with a proposal to you how much they want to buy from you, and it's up to you. If you don't agree, TMB will not. Maybe you can negotiate, but typically TMB will have that a certain amount range lah yang dia mampu nak beli pada awak. Dia nak beli pada awak. So willing seller, willing buyer basis. Of course, you can negotiate with TMB how much you want to sell. And then for this kind of program, the share of that company must at the very least has 30% of Bumi Putra share. Ni memang zaman tun lagi. Yang diorang gaduh-gaduh latest ni pun sebab Bumi Putra share pasal dekat custom, bukan custom, dekat import export. Dekat apa? Harbor tu. So basically zaman tun punya cerita lah ni. So siapa yang rasa kesian dekat anti apa Indian cleaner anti India, cleaner anti China yang anak dia belajar pandai-pandai tapi tak boleh nak sambung belajar kat UiTM tu, itu bukan sebab kita ni memang daripada zaman tun lagi. Tu tak nak cerita lebih-lebih lah. Tapi basically Bumi Putra Share dalam Malaysia memang prevalent. Even Shell nak masuk Malaysia pun kena observe that Bumi Putra Share 30%. Whether you agree or not, it's up to you. But what I'm trying to say is, in effect, in Malaysia, if you want to, a foreigner wants to set up a company, there must be a Bumi Putra share of at least 30% shareholder in that company for in Malaysia to operate in Malaysia. And then foreign partner means those who don't have a Malaysian blue IC. For that company can only have 30% maximum shareholding company shareholder je lah. Maksudnya tak boleh lebih daripada 30% saja workforce yang ada dalam company itu datang daripada mereka yang bukan daripada Malaysia. Yeah, we are talking about small renewable energy program. Maksudnya company itu memang kita set up untuk producekan this certain amount of electricity. Basically, you are trying to become IPP lah, independent power provider, based on renewable energy. Okay, and then in Malaysia, to promote the use of renewable energy and also energy management program, we've introduced energy efficiency incentives. So of course, kita tak boleh hanya menggerakkan donkey tu as Malaysia dengan menggunakan stick. Kenalah bagi juga carrot. So this is the carrot lah. Energy conservation service provider. This incentive apply to energy conservation service provider, energy saving retrenchment program, and also the purchase of energy efficiency equipment, either locally or import. Okay, and then this incentive is for pioneer status, will be awarded to you a pioneer status for 10 years. Pioneer status maksudnya there's tax exemption lah. Tax exemption yang based on pioneer ni agak attractive, where the investment message masuk saya tindong lah. Okay, where the investment tax allowance on initial 5 years capex ni, you don't have to, I mean you can claim daripada government. Maksudnya the first time you pay for your solar panel, you can use that amount as tax deductible for 5 years. Banyak tu sebab mahal solar panel. And then if you buy anything solar panel, sebab Malaysia kita tak produce kita punya solar panel on our own, we have to buy it outside. And therefore anything, if you have an experience buying stuffs from other than China, kalau Shopee semua tu dah ada deal lah dengan Malaysia, tapi typically barang yang tak jual kat Shopee, kat Lazada ke, you have to pay the import duty and sales tax. So for renewable energy being introduced in Malaysia, these incentives allows you to waive that import or export sales punya tax lah. So everything is per items punya price. You don't need to pay any kind of tax on top of the cost of you purchasing that equipment. And then this one is energy efficiency. Sorry, tadi saya termasuk bagi contoh renewable energy, but this one is more on energy efficiency. So to observe energy efficiency, you don't have to install solar panel pun sebenarnya. Maybe just lock device untuk monitor electric tu, dia punya meter, log data, or maybe some other equipment that you want to buy in order for you to realize an energy efficiency program in your company. Then this policy applies to you. Actually, the punya incentive sama je, even though you're trying to ada duit lebih sikit nak pakai renewable energy. So incentive dia sama, pioneer status 10 years, investment tax allowance of 5 years, import duty and sales tax exemption. Sama je, cuma kategori dia berbeza lah. For this one, it's energy efficiency program, maksudnya anything yang awak nak pakai untuk bukan conserve lah, use your energy efficiently, boleh pakai this incentive. And tiba-tiba, okay, dah cukup duit, capital, nak beli barang pula, nak pakai renewable energy, nak beli solar panel, then this policy applies to you. So, this is more on energy generation using renewable sources, can be wind, can be water, can be solar. Nuclear, no. Nuclear power does not falls under renewable sources in Malaysia because kita kena kita adhere towards United Nations punya rule yang mana cakap kita tak boleh ada nuclear power for, I think it's not more because of, it's because of kita tak nak ada nuclear power lah. Sebab nanti kan kalau kita ada nuclear power, imagine Singapore tiba-tiba Singapore memang takut. Bukan sebab dia takut dengan kita, dia nak make sure dia nak jaga balance. Singapore, Indonesia, Thailand, memang Malaysia lah sekali 4, and Brunei 5. Lima ni memang takkan in the near future ada nuclear power or even nuclear generation pun, sebab tak nak ada, orang kata tak nak timbul fitnah, macam mana ayat dia tu, kalau tak nak timbul fitnah jangan tarik that fitnah, macam like that. I guess you guys would know lah. Jangan bagi peluang untuk fitnah tu muncul pun. Sama lah macam kes ni, they don't want they want to make sure everyone stay calm. So dia pun Malaysia pun tak nak lah ada nuclear power. So nuclear power does not falls under renewable sources, even though it is a renewable sources, but tak nak. So that's on renewable energy incentives. So this is the process if you want to apply for the energy efficiency incentives for your company lah. So you have to go to the Suruhanjaya Tenaga website and also to KETA website. So the guideline is already there, but incentive kena follow this link lah. And this is the flow where first you complete the application, and if cukup baru proceed kepada kena present. As you can see, you have to present to technical committee in Suruhanjaya Tenaga or KETA, and then baru sediakan evaluation report, and then submit to MIDA. So kena present dulu, you fill up, present, and then baru buat report on the progresses that you have made so far. So leceh sikit, but that incentive is very attractive, especially 10 tahun tak boleh pakai capex punya tu, capital expenses. 10 tahun boleh tolak income tax, and also pioneer status tu macam-macam lah benefit yang you guys can get from the government. So, and then another energy policy is being introduced in Malaysia is the green building incentive, where it promotes the use of, it promotes classification of green building index certification in Malaysia. So as you can see, 100% tax exemption of expenditure yang di-approvekan lah. Maksudnya nak beli solar panel ke, or maybe nak beli batu-bata yang allow for natural cooling or natural lighting, tu boleh lah. Tapi kalau expenditure disebabkan nak pergi site visit ke apa ke, tu tak boleh lah untuk tax exemption dan semua. And only for GBI certificate obtained between 2009 and 2014. Again, most of the works of energy management incentive typically stop at 2014. I think it's because of cutting cost lah, government tak ada duit time tu sebelum dia introduce GST. And then after GST tu tak tahu apa cerita, end up dia tak renew pula apa-apa semua-semua ni. So I maybe not the one you should ask lah whether on the update. Have to ask the menteri lah. And then for to purchase a GBI certified property, let's say for example, awak billionaire, awak tak nak spend banyak bil api sangat, awak malas nak invest for the first capital, so you plan to buy the apa, Keta punya the green tech building yang kat Bangi tu yang dah dapat certification of GBI up to zaman 0% energy being used. So nak save sangat, nak terus beli. You have to go through ni lah, green building incentive ni, where the stamp duty exemption will be exempted, stamp duty exemption on SNP, and exemption on additional cost incurred to obtain GBI certification. Basically, site survey punya apa, visit apa ke, tu semua dapat exemption lah on cost. Okay, this will be slide berapa ni? Give me a second. Where's the one? Saya punya tak ada. Eh, okay. Oh, bila saya minimize dia pun minimize macam tu Sorry. Okay, give me a 10 minutes break because I'm recovering from my cough and apa sesama flu, but my throat is a bit dry, so give me a 10-minute break. And besides, dengar saya baby dah sejam ni, kita take apa lah, kita take break lah sejam. Sejam lah, kita take a break 10 minutes before we continue with 2.3. Okay, 10 minutes break. So now my watch is at 3:30, so we'll continue at 3:40. Thank you. Okay, Assalamualaikum. Kita start. Continue sebab nanti lagi cepat kita start, lagi cepat kita habis. Okay, kita start Boleh? Can we continue?
Can, Doktor.
Again, everyone, make sure to turn on your camera. Okay, Bismillah. Okay, next we continue to the gist of the topic, which is legislation in regards to energy management. Not the whole legislation available in Malaysia, but more on energy management itself. Okay, so there are tons of legislations. Ni gambar saya. Saya kena gerakkan sikit. Kalau tak nampak. Mana muka saya ni? Give me a second. Sini. Okay. So the main legislations available simply to address energy management. Actually, there are 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. There are 9 that has recordedly being addressed lah. Other similar acts tu is a bit random, but it's kalau yang ada yang tak di address kat sini, typically it's the contribution to a little bit less lah compared to the other 9, the other 8. So as you can see, the main thing being observed is Occupational Health, Safety and Health Act of 1994. That will be the first thing that you need to observe, because there are no energy efficiency without safety and reliability. Apa guna awak simpan bil api tapi awak tak boleh produce, or awak hilang kawan awak yang bekerja tu. Okay, so the first thing, safety and reliability with respect to energy efficiency, or even safety overall, meaning human safety, machine safety. That will be the number one priority that you guys have to observe before you delve deeper into energy management legislations. So safety matters. Where when we're talking about safety, it's not just the reliability of the plant, the equipment, or the system, but also those who are responsible for the installation, test, commissioning, operation, maintenance, equipment, or maintenance of those plant, equipment, and machinery. Plant bukan pokok. Plant is the processing plant lah, bukan yang pokok processing plant ni the whole tempat lah. And safety and reliability, health and welfare must take precedence over energy efficiency. That's the first priority. So mana-mana awak pergi, when you are talking about engineering punya, kenapa engineering? Because kita orang yang producekan barang tu untuk korang, untuk daily consumption. So any kind of engineering places that you guys go, kilang ke, processing plant ke apa ke, mesti ada nampak 0 days without accident, from accident ke apa, berapa days before last accident or something like that. Itu memang mana-mana pun pergi akan nampak benda tu, especially in oil and gas, because they have the means lah, ada duit banyak untuk diorang apa nama, to spend on that kind of ni. Tapi untuk kilang yang kecil-kecil, typically you wouldn't see that lah. Just dia ada apa, memang ada dalam dia punya policy, dalam company policy mesti ada yang safety and health. Cuma dia tak tayang lah 0 days of no accidents, accident free ke apa ke. Okay, the first we'll look after safety and health will be the legislation of Factories and Machinery Act and Regulation. Okay, again saya kena gerakkan muka saya tu. Not because saya rasa muka saya ni penting, tapi biasalah as a bukti when apa nama, kod ada audit ke apa ke, menunjukkan saya observe etika ODL. because this has been dah ditegur by one of the professors kat Shalam. Okay, so the first regulation that you guys need to know is the Regulation 1970 Part 1, which state Factories and Machinery Act provides for the control of factories and machinery with respect to matters related to the safety and health and welfare of person therein. So apa dia cakap membebel panjang-panjang tu? Basically dia nak kata, dia nak encapsulate all the legislation being mentioned in Factories and Machinery Act and Regulation covers all the factories, all the control of the factories, all the machinery must adhere towards safety and health of the person being involved. And this includes competent control of machinery and equipment. And therefore, factories and machinery or Regulation 1970 state that person in charge will be must have competency control of steam boilers, internal combustion engines, dredge, and all machinery at such plant. Ni yang legislation mula-mula sekali diperkenalkan in regards to energy management lah. Basically, the focus first is more on safety. Second, again nak observe safety, kena ada computer control. So the defined computer control is those yang the person in charge tu must have competency certification to operate steam boilers and so on and so forth lah, dredge apa semua tu. Sebab back then in 1970, we are more focused on mining, we are more focused on kayu balak. I forgot the terms is, but kayu balak, and back then kita lebih kepada, sebab kita negara yang kaya dengan hasil bumi, so kita banyak menuai lah hasil bumi tu. So sebab itulah dia banyak cerita pasal mesin-mesin ni. And then after Machinery Act 1970, kita ada Electricity Supply Act 1990. This is a bit earlier, a bit recent, but basically it states that all installation except those owned or managed by supply authority, TNB lah for example, shall be worked or operated by person qualified and certified under the Electricity Supply Act Section 223 kurungan 1 bracket 1. So if you don't adhere to this regulation, you'll be penalized by a fine not exceeding RM10,000 or RM1,000 per day following the day of non-compliance. So the meaning, if that particular person has been found to be not certified under Electricity Supply Act, basically he's not a competent person lah. Apa yang dimaksudkan dengan certificated under Electricity Supply Act Section 23 bracket 1 is that that person must be competent. Ni yang competent ni, computer control So if it's this Electricity Supply Act, yang ini machinery, tapi the same thing lah yang dia mention dekat dalam 23-1 ni, basically mention that competent person. So if the person found was not certified under competent person as stated in this section in Electricity Supply Act, every single day dia report duty sampai the day yang diorang audit and dapat tahu, katakanlah setahun, maybe dia datang audit bulan ke-12 baru tahu, then the whole year tu you have to pay a fine of RM1,000. So tapi not exceeding lah. So kalau dia tengok banyak sangat sampai setahun tu, most probably you'll be penalized 10,000 lah. Tapi kalau dia bawah daripada 10,000, then only that amount lah. Dia bukan nak membunuh company tu, dia lebih kepada nak make sure orang semua selamat je. So tak naklah dia sampai tutup company kan semata-mata sebab tu. So whichever is the lowest will be applicable lah. Maximum RM10,000, but there's a possibility it will be 2,000 or maybe just 1,000 depending on the audit ni lah. Okay, so tu penalized. Ni dah been gazetted, so being enforced. So kalau ada audit, ready lah. Memang government dah ada black and white policy mention under Electricity Supply Act 1990. Okay, under tadi dia kata 23-1. Okay, now 64.1 and 64.2, dia punya rule state no switchboard, switchgear, or equipment except any electrical appliance, fittings, or apparatus designed to be connected to an electrical socket outlet by means of a plug shall be connected to an installation for the purpose of receiving energy unless the connection is carried out by or under the control of a competent person. Again, competent person, when we are talking about competent person, that person is, okay, saya tak elaborate tadi, tapi competent person is someone that has been certified by Suruhanjaya Tenaga lah, electrician level 3 ke, or engineers yang graduated by LAN punya ni. Tapi engineers pun sebenarnya ada certain level juga yang diorang tak boleh buat. Tapi kalau technician, that's the most competent person yang level 3 tu. Sebab dia dah memang dah lalu exam. They have to go through training and exam for, if I'm not mistaken, mahal juga exam tu. And then training tu pun takes time. I'm not sure how many years, tapi typically not more than 1 year lah. Bulan je lah, tapi memang specific for that control of high voltage. Sebab dia tak nak kematian berlaku. Salah apa, you can play around with battery. Sure, awak boleh ambil wayar, cocok, masuk sana, masuk sini, pegang tangan kosong boleh. Tak, sebab tak mati. Paling kuat pun terkejut je. Even bateri motor pun, I believe for those yang main motor, ada pernah terrenjat 2-3 kali dengan bateri motor. Kalau dia tak pandai sangat lah. Tapi, when you're talking about 11 kilovolt and above, even outlet soket rumah pun, yang aircon tu pun, you shouldn't touch it because you'll be dead if you're not careful. Sebab tu dia bukan dia nak duit sebenarnya, bukan dia nak orang belajar ramai-ramai collect duit buat tuition training program, bukan. It's about your safety. Current awak tak boleh bau, you can't smell it, you can't taste it. The only way you know you're electrocuted is after you have been electrocuted. That's the only way you know you have been electrocuted. There's no smell, there's no way for you to know. There's no spark actually. Kalau korang tak tahu, nak tahu, korang tanggalkan wall socket tu, and korang keluarkan wayar merah dengan hitam tu, and kalau korang tak sambungkan dua-dua, there's no spark. But if you touch black, and you touch the white one, confirm you'll be electrocuted. Provided tangan you basah lah. Kalau tangan tak basah, there's 50-50 chances you will survive. Sebab macam tangan saya ni kering, tak banyak minyak, so elektrik tak berapa konduktif. Even though badan kita will be able to conduct electricity, tapi tak berapa bagus lah. So ada berlaku some losses there lah. Tapi kalau tangan basah, licin untuk elektron tu mengalir ke tangan awak, confirm mati. So that's why dia buat regulation ni bukan sebab dia nak duit awak. Tu biasalah geng-geng pembangkang suka cakap macam tu. Ni kind of regulation introduce je, ni mesti nak duit, ni mesti nak duit, ni mesti nak duit. Padahal there are other things yang government, sebab awak kena ingat government pun sebenarnya, those yang introduce all this act semua ni sebenarnya pun rakyat juga. There's no higher power pun except for when you're talking about engineering, kalau dia buat business nak buat bangunan macam apa, what you call that, those developer tu lain cerita lah, memang dia nak duit. Tapi kalau for supplying electricity, engineering, kita orang jarang nak fikir pasal duit. Kita orang lebih fikir kepada safety operation. Sebab apa guna dapat duit tapi tiba-tiba orang salahkan awak sebab ada 2-3 user bangunan awak tu meninggal sebab awak salah design your circuit. Boleh kena saman, boleh kena penjara kita orang. For engineering, of course yang fikir duit tu dia buat tipu tu standard lah kan. Tapi manusia kan, engineer ke, business school ke, lawyer ke, doktor ke, ada je yang perangai teruk. Tapi in general, in essence, when we come up with a legislation, provided bukan yang dictatorship punya country lah, diplomatic punya country, typically it will be more on to serve you as a human being, not so much because greed. So when you're talking about electricity apa ke engineering punya ni, typically it's to observe your safety, bukan sebab nak korek duit awak. So tolonglah comply with as a business person. Sebab saya bagi tahu ni, sebab selalunya typically business punya ni biasalah dia nak balancekan dia punya pocket dan juga adherence to rule and law by the government. Typical lah ni, kalau business owner ni dia suka lari-lari sikit, potong sini, potong sana sikit. Tapi bila dah mati, mula dah ada orang, 2 orang, 3 orang mati, mulalah deh kelang kabut. Nak salahkan tu, nak salahkan ni. Tapi this is why it's good this subject is being taught to you guys as a future business owner, saya doakan, hopefully, to know that this regulation isn't about to take money from your company. It's more on safety. So that if there's any kind of issues later on when you operate your business, it's not because nobody can point fingers at you. Itu penting. Point fingers ni, biasalah kita muda-muda ingat, bila dah besar nanti kita akan jadi ternama tersohor sebab kita pandai buat tu, kita pandai buat ni. But honestly, when you grow older, when you reach certain age later on, you'll realize that working punya environment isn't about you performing. It's about who you can blame if any problem arises. So concern membesar ni sebenarnya bukan kita nak point finger kat siapa. So government nak cover diri dia come out with the electricity supply ni lah. So that you won't be able to point fingers at any others, you have to adhere towards this regulation, which means all the operation tu must be under competent person, except kalau macam awak just nak tukar lampu je lah. Tukar lampu tu kalau kena renjat pun most probably awak terkejut je. Sebab dia dah ada, dia panggil apa, power step down, so dia dah rendahkan sikit. So maybe lah, sebab tu dia kata kat situ, except any electrical appliance, fittings or apparatus designed to be connected to an electrical socket outlet. Socket outlet yang wall socket lah. Tadi saya cakap mati. Boleh mati sebenarnya, tapi risiko tu kurang lah compared to kalau awak pegang yang betul-betul main line yang dekat distribution box tu, awak tanggalkan itu, awak pegang dia punya main coming daripada TNB tu, tu boleh mati lah. Tapi yang wall socket ni ada possibility just terenjat je lah, sebab typically dia dah step down. So that's why dia kata kalau setakat nak tukar lampu, setakat nak tukar wall socket punya casing dia tu, setakat nak tukar, kalau wall socket tu awak dah tanggal and awak nak tukar kipas ke komputer awak punya tu ke, tu peluang pada awak lah. Sebab tu voltage dah rendah. So you don't have to be worried about that. But if it's not being designed to work without socket outlet, maksudnya awak tak perlu cocok dinding awak kena come up with special power generator ke apa ke, that one government say you have to employ or you have to put it under in charge, competent person punya in charge lah. Dia yang kena buat semua tu. Except for again lamps in domestic installation, typically orang tak adalah sampai every single time you want to beli barang elektronik nak kena upah competent person to connect it for you, tu tak perlulah. Sebab typically again it's about safety. Selalunya by the time you dah sampai domestic application, it will be rendah punya voltage lah. So under regulation 122, if you don't comply with regulation 64 bracket 1 and bracket 2, you'll be fined of around 5,000, not exceeding 5,000, or prison for a term not exceeding 1 year. So jangan jatuhkan sabun Okay, and then electricity regulation 1994 mentioned in regulation 71, restrict maintenance, repair, overhaul, servicing, calibration, test, or any kind of commission of any kind of installation or equipment, and the location of cable faults only to electrical service engineers. So dia kata, again, electrical service engineers ni is competent person lah. And competent electrical engineer, selain daripada electrical and service engineers, those who can also do those works falls under competent electrical engineers, electrical supervisor, electrical chargeman, electrical wireman, semua ni dibenarkan lah. Untuk some level only, not the whole yang dia kata kat atas tu repair overhaul semua tu. Only to some level. I think if I'm not mistaken, only up to calibration lah. For overhaul, servicing and whatnot must be performed under electrical service engineers. So saya as an electrical engineer can only maybe do up until calibration. I can't overhaul, I can't service, I can't do maintenance except for those yang tak melibatkan apa buka the machine tu lah. Kalau maintenance takat nak grease apa gear apa semua tu boleh lah saya buat. Tak kena saman lah. Tapi yang bila once you pop up the generator punya machine, tu falls under electrical service engineers. If anybody caught you doing the things that you shouldn't do, itulah yang tadi, which is kena penjara and apa tu, saman 5,000. And then under ni panjang this one, if you don't remember, I'm not asking you to remember it now, but just so you know what this regulation means. So saya just guide through it. But nanti bila nak test ataupun maybe when you are applying for renewable energy management manager punya certification tu, then baru kena hafal lah. But for now, just saya brief through apa, what does it mean by all those regulation being said lah, and regulation involved. So under regulation 112 bracket 7, it states that any kind of live work must be performed under control of a competent person. Again, competent person lagi. Bukan maksudnya kalau kita tak competent person ni maksudnya tak certified competent person ni maksudnya kita tak pandai. Bukan. Competent person ni again is for those yang dah di-train to do that kind of work with safety. Bukan train tu maksudnya dia tahu je. Tahu nak buat, tak. Dia kena safety tu kena observe. So certification tu So data logging typically bila kita nak buat monitoring, macam contoh awak nak tahu whether it's good that you have implement the renewable energy and you want to make sure that betul you want to justify to your boss that betul we buy it and we have managed to save. Of course you have to have the data to show to the boss. Okay, bulan lepas kita spend banyak ni elektrik, bulan ni kita dah kurang banyak ni. So kena ada data lah kan, tak boleh main cakap je, boss nak tengok data. So in order to get the data, you must perform data logging. Data logging maksudnya simpan data. So data logging must be under control of an appropriate competent person because bukan dia yang buat, tapi typically dia will approve lah whether data logging process tu mengganggu safety or not. So that's why it must be under the control of competent person. Bukan dia yang buat, tapi approval must be under dia. So that safety itulah being observed. And electrical service engineer, electrical competent engineer, electrical supervisor, and so forth, is considered as also appropriate. PTW, however, must be issued by the competent person. So yang tadi tu lah, service engineer tadi tu, yang dah dapat certification by Suruhanjaya Tenaga that states they are a competent person. And they must be the one that issue the permit to work. Bukan bos awak yang issue permit to work. No matter how high, Tan Sri Vincent Tan sekalipun tak boleh keluarkan PTW untuk any kind of technician dia buat kerja dekat any kind of building dia punya generator, tak boleh. Vincent Tan punya permit to work tak laku. Dia boleh maki, dia boleh buang kerja awak, tapi awak boleh saman dia balik sebab permit to work falls under competent person, bukan dia. Of course dia boleh push for the competent person to ni lah, of course. But that competent person, even though dia kena push pun, dia tahulah steps macam mana nak buat so that safety tu being observed while you do your work dekat generator tu. Okay. And need some more elaboration. Energy efficiency managers should therefore ensure that all energy efficiency management activities are carried out under the control and supervision of competent person. So dalam team, when you're talking about energy efficiency, typically you guys will set up a team. Bukan awak seorang je buat kerja, suruh pasang solar panel apa tak. Ada satu team. Typically will involve your boss. Tapi, even though that competent person may not be part of that team, dia kena control any kind of, maksudnya any kind of work, any kind of energy efficient steps that you want to take must be approved by competent person as per law. Bukan bos awak yang kata saya kena approvekan. No, bos awak kena sokong je. Yang approvekan for the work to be done is a competent person, whoever he is or she is in your company later on. Okay. And then as stipulated under Factories and Machinery Act, Electricity Supply Act and Regulation, or other similar act or regulation. Of course, dalam real world, rule are there, tapi bos mesti dia nak cakap kuasa dia, company dia kan. Memang hak dia lah nak marah ke nak apa ke. Tapi again, if any kind of issues arise, you can summon that person because there's a black and white regulation stated by the government, enforced by the government, that shows you must observe competent person punya approval. So bos awak nak marah, Vincent tak nak marah ke, even siapa nama tu yang kaya gila tu, YTL Cement tu, dia nak marah dia punya technician pun tak boleh sebab dia still falls under Malaysian government punya jurisdiction. Okay, and then responsibility and obligation of competent person. Bukan, saya cerita ni bukan saya nak agung-agungkan competent person. No, it's more on safety because competent person knows how that machine can be operated safely. So if you don't observe his or her punya recommendation, chances are boleh meletup, boleh mati, boleh menyebabkan kecelakaan berlaku in your workplace. Okay, so continue. Competent person at the plant or installation have the ultimate responsibility. The buck stop at him or her. Competent person. So any kind of wrongdoings, dia yang kena menjawab. Sebab tu dia yang kena prove of operating the plant or installation in a safe, reliable and efficient manner. Okay, I'm not saying this because I'm an engineering student or engineering punya background. Bukan saya nak kata business owner kena dengar sebiji-sebiji cakap competent person. Of course, in real life, kalau bisnes tak boleh jalan, competent person tu tak boleh di-hire lah kan. Tak dapat duit lah competent person tu. So, it's just that try to find win-win situation lah. Competent person ni sebenarnya tak adalah. Sebab awak dah hire dia, takkanlah dia nak buat perangai, dia nak kata semua orang kena ikut cakap saya pula. Tak. Typically, what you have to do is try to find a solution lah yang mana safety should be observed, is being observed, but also profit tak kacau. Try to be smart lah. Recommendation on energy efficiency made by energy managers must take into consideration of the fact that competent person punya advice. Tak boleh bercakap banyak-banyak tu basically. Kalau you as a team of energy manager punya action, decision nak take some action, try to get competent person punya input. If they don't agree, chances are what you're trying to do will cause issues later on. So I'm not saying everything stops at him and therefore dia paling nombor satu dalam company you. No. What I'm trying to say is dia nak jaga keselamatan semua orang. So try to find, kalau tak boleh, maybe find out a way that we can do it by some other way or maybe some other steps lah yang dia boleh buat. Okay, this also shall apply in respect to compliance of design, modification of a building structure where approval of engineers and architect is required. So any kind of physical attribute yang korang nak buat dekat company korang, physical bukan dia punya policy of bekerja 5S ke, bukan 5S pula, working hours ke apa ke, of course still kena, even working hours pun you have to follow engineers punya approval because imagine if you can't even drive while you're sleeping, imagine operating mesin yang potong besi tu. Imagine orang tu mengantuk. Dia ingatkan dia masukkan besi, rupanya dia masukkan tangan dia. So even working hours pun is you have to get some input from the competent person. I'm not saying engineers as a whole, but competent person. Sebab training, when you're talking about safety, it's mental and also physical punya well-being. So that's where safety comes. So dapatkan juga input competent person. I'm not saying engineers, but competent person. Okay, there is now no legislation on total energy management at the moment. Based on this slide, mentioned that there's no specific legislation that says that efficient management of electrical energy that restrict to only electrical system, equipment and plant. Macam saya cakap tadi, working hours pun, even though dibuka electrical systems, but also can be considered as efficient management juga lah if you want to put it in a bulk energy management effort. It is therefore obvious that registered electrical energy managers is only responsible for energy management of electrical system. Bukan air, bukan nuclear, bukan mechanical. It's more on electrical systems. And therefore, energy managers who are not registered as electrical energy managers or REM cannot carry on the duties of RIM. Tapi tak ada kecoh apa pun sebenarnya. Seorang ni dalam your company needs to be energy manager. Yang lain tu, your boss ke apa ke, can be in the team to do total energy management. But basically what this slide shows is that if you want to not only energy conservation, you buat energy efficiency program, lepas tu you buat pula renewable energy, tak ada legislation lagi yang menghalang awak untuk buat tiga-tiga ni in your company. You can pursue it to the best of your knowledge. Okay, hold on. I think this is it. So I have to stop here because this is apparently where Encik Azri stopped his class is, because if not then the next class I'll be mismatched dengan kelas satu lagi. So I have to stop here and continue it on the next class. So alhamdulillah lah, habis awal. So any questions that you guys want to ask before we end the session today? I doubt lah korang ada soalan sebab teori je kan boring kan dengar. So I guess kalau ada soalan, tapi tak apa, kalau ada soalan for those yang overactive tu, semangat nak belajar ke apa katanya, boleh try tanya, preferably in a group. Kalau ada, if you guys have any question, please ask in a group so that everyone can also learn from you. Of course, if you feel like being suka diva, nak dapat attention sangat tu, nak tanya saya seorang so that semua orang tanya kat you, it's up to you lah kan. So korang false anak Azwan Ali punya gang kan tu. But for those yang rasa knowledge tu semua orang pun boleh tahu, boleh ambil advantage of it, please tanya dalam group. Jangan tanya personal. Sebab nanti kan takut orang lain pun nak tanya soalan yang sama. So everyone can learn the same thing lah. Tak perlulah saya nak address every single time. Okay, other than that, tu je lah kot. Kalau tak ada question, we'll end our session today with Tasbih Kifarah and Surah Wal-As. Okay, welcome. Thank you.
Thank you, Doctor.
Thank you,
Doktor.
Doctor.